Some free, new and exclusive beers from one of the UK's best breweries. Our friends at Beer 52 and Siren have teamed up with 8 different breweries to come up with 8 exclusive beers for you. Simply go to beer52.com/paddock and pay the £6.95 postage to receive your free case of beer. I absolutely love Beer 52 and the beers that they send out every single month. They've got absolute experts curating and creating some of the best beers from the best breweries around the entire world. And this month is no different. They are teaming up with Siren on their 10th birthday. For the last decade, I'm sure you've seen them everywhere, Siren have been coming up with some of the best, most cutting-edge modern beers whilst adhering and looking after the traditions of brewing. Siren are known for their IPAs, and this one here, Activate Deadline Mode, is no different whatsoever. It's sort of, I describe it as a kind of greatest hits of an IPA. What do you want? You want your tropical flavours. You want your illustrious mouthfeel. You want, basically, a complex yet refreshing IPA, and that is exactly what this is. Then you've got the Pastel Pils, which offers a clean, harmonious flavour, everything you want from the perfect lager. And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the Dark Birthday Bourbon, a Nitro Stout, which is infused with incredible bourbon maple oak for a dark, chocolatey, roasty flavour. And if you don't like dark beers, you can stick with the light-only box. The customizability is there. Whatever you want, Beer 52 have got it. And also, you're getting snacks in the box. You're also getting Ferment Magazine, which takes you through the journey of Siren's award-winning story. What more could you want? And all you have to do is head to beer52.com/paddock to get your free box of beers. And again, if you're not satisfied, you can pause or cancel at any time. Again, beer52.com/paddock. That is beer52.com/paddock.
That's Joe Smith. I'm Jay Motti. This is the Paddock Podcast. Thanks for joining us. And first things first, a big thank you to everyone for helping us to get to 700,000 subscribers on the channel. Yeah. Yes, onwards and upwards. Next stop, 800,000. But when we started doing this, full-time Devils, you never know what was going to happen. But certainly when we took over Stretford Paddock, we took a chance during lockdown. Let's give this a go. The 4 of us, me, you, Steve, and Macola, and it's doing all right so far. Yeah. Thanks to everyone's support. So a big slice of gratitude from me and Joseph. What we're talking about today?
Well, you've got a big slice of gratitude already, and I've got one here. But also, save room on your plate for a big slice of transfer pie.
Love that, nice.
Which is, I mean, I'll be honest, you don't get as much as you used to in terms of the size of the slice. Yeah. Because what used to cost you 30 million for a big old slice, now you're looking at 70 to 80 million for a similarly sliced slice of pie. So really, we're going to be getting into...
You've got to see the whole pie. You're looking through the... forget about the pies.
We're looking at transfer inflation, or as I call it, transflation.
Nice.
Because what I've done is I've sort of smelted the 2 words together.
Smelted? Smelted 2 words together?
I've smelted the 2 words together.
The words smell and sheltered.
I've smelted the 2 words together.
An amalgamation.
It's an amalgamation, but it's an amalgamation and a combination, so it's a comb-amalgamation. And what I've done is I've popped them 2 together. Oh. And Rio Ferdinand this week has been talking about how much he would have been worth. So what I want us to do, we're going to be looking at Mason Mount, Moses Caicedo, a few different options that United are looking at, the fees associated, the latest news, obviously we'll always cover that. But also I want to go through some of United's players, some of the greats of recent memory, and talk about how much they would be worth now in their prime. When someone like a Declan Rice is going for 100 million, you cannot tell me Michael Carrick isn't worth the same. So we'll get into all of that and get your thoughts in the comments. But before I say that, and I know you've got a point to make, but I'm just going to get this super chat out of the way because I think we should put it behind us. The start of this video is just as big a shambles as our transfer window. Congratulations on 700,000 subscribers, lads.
Quite a mixed bag, that comment, wasn't it?
It's sort of...
complimentary and slightly insulting, but we'll say that. Don't forget as well, if you're not doing, subscribe to the channel. With your support, we want to get to 800,000 subscribers by the end of this video. Yeah. And we can do that. Yeah, so go on then. What are you moaning about, you? The transfer's going through the roof?
Well, it is getting ridiculous, isn't it? Because it felt like things were going ballistic. Yeah. When we saw the Mbappe, we saw the Neymar. Yeah. We saw what... Monaco were doing it for a little bit. Then PSG were doing it. We obviously saw what City did, but they went for a slightly different tactic where they sort of slightly overpaid on everyone, but bought 20 players that cost 50 million each.
Yeah.
They didn't do what PSG did, which is let's sign the biggest players in the world in every position where possible. And then it felt like everyone kind of had to raise the bar. So after the Mbappe, I don't know if it was after, but it was around the similar period where we were seeing the likes of Mbappe for 150, Neymar for 200. We saw Coutinho for 120.
Coutinho was a big one.
We saw Dembele for 100 million plus euros as well. We saw João Felix for 115 million euros. We've seen, and if you look at the top transfers of all time, most of them you wouldn't consider to be sort of runaway successes. Like if we look at the list, so Neymar is number one at 200 million, and I think that one is kind of up in the air whether that was a success. It's put PSG on the map, but they hasn't won them the trophy they wanted. Mbappe obviously second. But then you go down that list, the rest of the top 10, João Felix to Atletico Madrid is a decent transfer at best. They're now letting him go out on loan. He's not really, for 126 million euros, you'd want more than you've got from him, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The next one is Enzo Fernandez, Benfica to Chelsea. You could say too early to say, but the early signs are that wasn't great value for money.
No.
But let's say the jury's out even. Coutinho, Liverpool to Barca, as you always mention.
A disaster.
One of the worst transfers of all time.
I think it is because not only was that, just in terms of value for money, massively overpaid.
Yeah.
You had a situation where he's on loan at Bayern Munich and scores a brace against Barcelona to help knock him out of the Champions League.
Yeah.
Just a shambolic transfer.
And is a real symptom and symbol, as is the next player I'm about to mention, of Barcelona's descent into sort of financial farce over the last 3 or 4 years. The next one, Griezmann, Atletico Madrid to Barcelona, 120 million euros. Jack Grealish, Villa to City, 100 million pounds, which people said he's done all right this season. He has not done well enough to justify a 100 million price tag. In the 2 years he's been there, he's had one poor season and one slightly above average season.
I think that for them, it kind of makes sense because even though I don't think Grealish has been worth 100 million, for example, I think he has played a part in their success.
He has played a part,
season.
but
I think that the fact, the ability they've had this season when Foden, just for whatever reason, wasn't firing on all cylinders and was able to have 2 months off because Grealish came in and then you bring in Foden back in, then you're rotating. I think, for me, I look back at transfers. I think, would you make that transfer again? I think City would make that again.
Yeah, perhaps.
I think
so it's been a decent transfer.
Yeah, I mean, I get the
would
point.
argue
He's not
that
worth.
Raheem Sterling would have done just as much as Grealish in those 2 years.
There's a debate to be had then. I'm certainly not going to defend.
But
Manchester
it's not been
City.
horrendous, but it's not been a runaway success.
Yeah.
The number 9 on the list is Ousmane Dembele, 105 million plus another
They went early
45
with him,
in
didn't they?
add-ons.
Was that off Dortmund?
Horrendous transfer.
He had a decent season. And it was like, right, 100 and odd million.
Yeah.
Like, why?
And then equal number 9, but let's put it at number 10. Paul Pogba, Juve to Man United, 105 million. Again, at best, a decent transfer. He certainly didn't get our money's worth out of that deal.
He was a very good player. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
But did he live up to expectations at Manchester United? I don't think he did.
No. So these are the sorts of fees that have been, world record fees and in that ballpark over the last decade. And we've kind of got used to that. It then felt like, all of these fees, right, which is weird because you would think it's a sort of a general upwards trajectory. Look at the years that these fees took place, right? So this is the top 10. 2017, 2019, 2023, fair enough, that's a new one. 2018, 2019, 2021, 2021, but then 2017, 2016. Only 3 of the top 10 are in the last 2 years. The rest are 4, 5, 6 years ago. Like, there seemed to be this weird peak around 2016, 17, like I said, and then it dipped again, didn't it?
Do you think that
COVID yeah, of course, played a massive role. But we are
clubs having to sort of roll back a little bit.
Yeah, but we're now well and truly in the post-COVID. People are just ridiculous money again.
I think for me, whilst all those transfers, nearly all of them that you've mentioned there, you think massively overpaid. Very few of them you think worth it, if any, worth it. I think what's even more shocking now is how even a player who is okay can go for 60, 70 million.
Yeah.
Like, that is what is baffling. Is players that you don't even know if they're any good and they're going for that kind of money. That's the sort of shocking thing, because every one of those players you've mentioned, whether you think they've lived up to expectations or not, on their day they are mint. Yeah. On their day, Dembele is mint. Grealish is, Griezmann is. You can see Pogba. You can see that they have the ability
talent,
to win a game single-handedly almost.
Yeah.
They might not do it consistently enough, and certainly not since they've made those moves. But you can understand it. We've seen players that you look at them, you go, they're not that good. And they've been bought for like 60, 70 million. Yeah. That's the really scary thing for me.
Well, let's have a look at some of those. So when you get into the sort of 65 million, you're looking at people like Cucurella, who is the 52nd highest transfer of all time, 65 million plus, this is euros, plus a further potential 8 in add-ons. That was this year.
And he had City and Chelsea fighting over him.
Yeah.
And he's been garbage since he got to Chelsea. Utterly.
I mean, Vlahovic, another one, again, he was highly rated, but he was 75 million euros last year. Darwin Núñez, 100 million euros. He'd had one good season at Benfica. Again, he's got something going for him, I guess. Wesley Fofana, 80 million.
Do you remember, right? We and you did a Transfers Live, and we were linked with Wesley Fofana for 80 million, and I laughed at it, and I was like, are you crazy? I said 8 million makes more sense than 80 million, or words to that effect, because he had a bad injury record. He'd had one decent season at Leicester, and then had been injured for much of the other season, and I was getting pelters off Leicester fans and all that. He's gone to Chelsea. Now, listen, I haven't watched loads of him, but when I've seen him, he's been shocking. He was shocking against United.
Yeah.
So I don't think that one's lived up to expectations. I know he's still relatively young, and there's a good chance he can turn that around, but still.
But even players, and this might be slightly harsh, but people like Ferran Torres, who I know is highly rated, but he cost Barcelona 55 million off City. You won't get any game
that
for
felt
him.
Felt
like fucking cheating.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Weird that
at all.
And you get a rich. I mean, it couldn't have worked out better. But someone like Lisandro Martinez, who had a couple of decent years at Ajax, is now a £55 million player. Obviously, he is well worth it, as it turns out. But in terms of what you have to have on your CV to be worth 50 to 80 million, it is so much less than it used to be. Like, you look at Caicedo, again, looks like an excellent player. Brighton having a phenomenal sort of couple of years at the moment. Certainly that last season in particular has been unbelievable for him. But he's had one good season in his life. I know he's only 21, but like, you're looking at 80 million quid for someone that has had a decent season with Brighton. That's a huge stretch from where football has always been, isn't it? That's so much.
It is, and you're right. And there used to be a time where you'd wait a couple of years. You'd go, let's have a look. Let's see how this player works out, pans out. Has he got what it takes? Let's give him another season. And I think now there's pressure on managers, there's pressure on clubs to sort of deliver instantly, that you can't afford to bide your time. And also, there's so many clubs with money who were willing to spend big money. There used to be, back in the day, you would have 2 or 3 clubs in, say, England, who could pay the top end for players. Yeah. So you'd maybe have, United and the Scousers and Chelsea or Arsenal, whatever, who could pay the sort of the big bucks. There was a period before that when Newcastle used to do it as well. Now it's like there's 6 or 7 clubs that can do that, probably more, and who are willing to do that. Plus you've got clubs on the continent who are willing and able to do that. Plus you've got managers who, the average sort of lifespan for a manager now is probably less than a season. So it's like, I'm not going to wait for 2 seasons to see if this kid's good enough, because I haven't got 2 seasons probably at this club. I may as well get him now and take the chance. So for those reasons, you just see people sort of not panicking, but going early. Going proper early on players. Me and you spoke about it a few weeks ago about Mudryk at Chelsea.
100 million euros.
For 12 career goals.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, that's one of the ones where you go, how has that happened? Because even with someone like Dembele, you think, all right, you can see what he's got. Or Sancho for us, he had a mint spell at Dortmund, was an England international. I'm not saying he's done yet because the jury's probably still out, but you can see why. But someone like Mudryk, I thought was a great example of just going far too early. Yeah. It was like he's had a little bit of a purple patch, get him. Yeah. And also, he had 2 clubs fighting over him. If Chelsea didn't want him, Arsenal were going to have him. Yeah. So it's not like they were. But then again, that motivates them to go, well, if we don't get him, Arsenal will have him. We don't go quick, we're going to miss out. We can't wait, so we'll get him now. That's the scary thing. There's so many clubs waiting. And we're seeing it with Caicedo. Yeah. We're linked with him. Chelsea linked with him. Arsenal almost got him in January, didn't they? Because there was talk of him going to Arsenal in January. I think Brighton said to him, don't come into training until after the January transfer window shut, because we're not selling you. Yeah. And you can just sort of lump it. Yeah. So you've had 3 clubs there that are interested in him already. Like, as you said, I rate the kid, but 1 big season. And he's already got 3 of the biggest clubs in England chasing after him, which is, it's both impressive and scary.
Yeah, we've got a few super chats, and I want to look at some of United's players and work out how much they'd be worth these days. SK says, Mount with 1 year, poor performances last year, 4th, 5th place at Chelsea. Is he worth £70 million? ? We're being mugged off compared to Sancho. He did better than Mount. Darren Billings says, well done, lads. Congratulations on 700,000 subscribers. Love watching you guys up the Paddock Glazers out. Thank you very much. Let's get into this. Let's start first of all with the 2008 team or certain pieces of that 2008 team.
Because just to recap, why are we talking about this? Give everyone a little bit
so
of a
basically, I'm not saying mediocre players because I don't think they are, but players...
Well, no, start with Rio, didn't it? Sorry. Rio Ferdinand said...
Well, mediocre to good players are being sold for 70, 80, 90 million quid.
Yeah.
And in response to that, Rio Ferdinand... It's okay. Rio Ferdinand said, if I was worth 30 million in 2001, I think it was 2002, when I went to Man United, I'd be worth 170 now.
Yeah.
To which some people laughed at, some people agreed with, some people found a sort of middle ground. But let's go through this actual team or certain names in this team, and let's give our thoughts, you two at home, how much you think they would be worth in today's market.
I like that. Can I just say something? Because I did a podcast around this on the Sports Social earlier. Alan Shearer went for 15 million in 1996.
Yeah.
Do you know how much that would be worth in today's money?
What, in just pure...
Inflation.
Yeah.
This is what I was told, so if I'm wrong, correct me. But
in transfer inflation or like
just normal
UK
monetary inflation.
Well, that's probably going to be about 60 million.
30 mil.
Only doubled.
But can you imagine?
You know what I mean?
Can you imagine the most prolific striker? Well, let's say Harry Kane at the age of 24. But a younger version of Kane going now would probably... If Kane was 24...
150?
And had just 4 great seasons. 100%. So it just shows you how football transfers aren't indicative of normal money or normal inflation. They're just far greater than that.
Straight away, Patrice Evra, 27 years old at the time, 50 million.
100%.
I think like...
More than that.
Yeah. If Cucurella's 60, and not everyone's been sold to Chelsea, so we can't always give it the sort of Chelsea, thickness tax on it that they deserve. But a good modern fullback, Wan-Bissaka, Cucurella,
Kyle Walker was 27 when he left Spurs, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
And he's been a good player for City. I don't want to keep praising City because I hate him. But
he was far less proven than ever was.
And he was like 50 mil.
Yeah.
And that was back in, 2007.
So I think you're looking at 60, 65 million, 70 million. I think there's a cap on a fullback. You're not going to get 100 million for a fullback. So I think you're looking at 65 million for Evra.
Yeah, I think he becomes like one of the world's most expensive fullbacks. He's in that sort of bracket.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because he's a Champions League finalist at Monaco. He's obviously well rated and a proper modern fullback in terms of his attacking prowess as well. So go with that.
Nemanja Vidic, who was 27 at the time.
Really?
Again, I think the problem is they'd only been at United for 2 and a bit years, hadn't they, when they won that?
Yeah.
So that's when we get to Ferdinand, I think we'll go with a slightly younger version of Ferdinand. But
if Van Dijk's 75 million at around a similar age, because he was in his mid to late 20s when he went.
I think he was 28 when he went.
Right, so he was even older than Vidic. Yeah. Then I'd make Vidic a bit more. I think, and especially when you look at what we paid for Maguire.
I think you're looking at 95 to 100.
100 million.
Yeah,
I think he's an £100 million defender.
If Napoli were trying to put a 100 million price tag on Koulibaly a few
2 years ago, more than that.
Fuck all in his career. Vidic had, at this point, had won the Premier League a couple of times, was one of the best centre-backs in Europe. You're looking at 100 million quid for him, easily.
100%.
Ferdinand, and I don't want to go with the 2008 Ferdinand, because what he said was the 2001 Ferdinand. He's 21 years old, or 22 years old.
Something like that. Yeah.
He's considered to be the best up-and-coming centre-back in the world, certainly in Britain. United spent, I think it was something like 15% of our total gross income on him. Like, we spent an insane amount of comparative money on him. I think it was like we made like 270 million that year, and we spent 30 million of it on Rio Ferdinand.
And that was his second big transfer at the age of 21, 22. He'd already left West Ham for Leeds for 18 million. So at the age of 21, 22, 48 million quid had been spent on him. Yeah. On a defender back in the day
at that time, that's putting you up there with like some of the biggest transfers.
Yeah.
Like, I think Ferdinand at that age, with the potential he had, you're looking at Tchouaméni was 100 million euros.
Yeah.
His potential, Ferdinand was almost not a given, because you can't ever say that with someone that age, but as close to a given that this guy's going to be world class as you can get.
100%.
Like I genuinely think you are talking 130 to 170.
I think you're talking record transfer fees around that region because of how good he was, and This is a player who, I think it was Glenn Hoddle was saying, like, he'd earmarked him as a player. He was going to build the England team around as a defender because he was so good playing out from the back. He wanted to play free at the back with Ferdinand as part of that, who would carry the ball out of defence for England. That was what his long-term plan was, but obviously got sacked before that happened for talking nonsense in an interview.
Yeah.
That is how good Rio Ferdinand was. And also you look at the fact that United were willing to pay so much money for him.
Yeah.
And that Leeds had already spent 18 million quid on him when he was at West Ham as obviously an even younger player. As good a defender, I think there's only Yapstam for me I've seen who's better than him.
Yeah.
So
and also the thing with Yapstam,
worth it.
And I think maybe, I don't know, I'm not saying this because I know it, but I think there's a situation where possibly if Yapstam had stayed at United for another 5 or 6 years or whatever, we don't know he would have stayed at that peak. There's a chance that we saw the best 3 years of Yapstam's career and never had to see him fall off a little bit. We saw Ferdinand, I know he arrived later and all that, but we saw Ferdinand have at least 10 brilliant years at United.
I think Ferdinand right up until Fergie's last season was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I thought his 2013 season, I think he only played 28 league games, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I thought he was excellent.
Yeah.
I really do. And he played in some big games and some big wins in that season. So yeah, I get it.
I think the one thing I would say about the 170 is I think it gets to a point where it starts to tail off a bit because you see a lot of players go for, not a lot, but Anthony's around 100, Darwin Núñez around 100, Grealish around 100, Felix, Dembele, all the players I've mentioned earlier. Like, to push past like 120, you kind of have to be one of the best attackers in the world. And
I think it's difficult
so
as a
I
defender.
think you probably would see around 110, 120.
He also said as well, Rio, that he'd be on 400k a week, which I think is a given.
Yeah.
I think he would.
Yeah.
But I get you. I think 170, he's probably been a little bit tongue-in-cheek with that one.
Yeah. But I would say 115, 120.
Yeah, I think he'd be the most expensive defender ever.
Easily, yeah. Let's move on to the next one. We'll skip past a few. Obviously, there's certain players. Van der Sar was 38. John O'Shea, I think John O'Shea's probably going to cost you 45 million. Though,
well, he didn't even make he made the squad. He didn't make the team, did he? He didn't get on.
No, but he played 30 odd games that season. Yeah. So he's.
But my point is, there's a level, we're not talking about a first team player from Manchester United at that time who was good enough to make the get on the pitch in the biggest game of the season.
Someone who I think I would like to talk about is Michael Carrick.
Carrick, don't you?
I think he's a direct comparison to Declan Rice. I know they're not quite the same player.
Yeah.
But and he was older by the time he got to United. But I think I don't think Declan Rice is far more talented than Michael Carrick.
No, he's not.
It's certain things he's way off. Certain things he's better at running with the ball. I think he's more of a goal threat. I think he uses his body and he gets sort of stuck in a bit more than Carrick did. But in terms of his defensive positioning, his reading of the game, his passing ability, I've seen very few players better than Michael Carrick. And I think they're of a similar quality. I think you're looking at 90 million, plus add-ons for Carrick.
I think one thing people forget is Michael Carrick, you look at that first season, he used to get forward a lot more.
Yeah.
And then basically he adjusted his game a little bit because he was just more or less just in front of the defence, putting out fires before he started, as I think Ferdinand actually said, funnily enough. I think Michael Carrick's one of the best midfielders I've ever seen. I don't think you can say that about Declan Rice. He's very good, but he's not one of the best midfielders I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think that Michael Carrick at his job was 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
His job was to do that role, and he did it perfectly.
The thing with that role is you don't get a lot of money for it.
No,
comparatively,
it's like the Busquets type players that the unsung heroes of every single team. And I think one of the biggest indictments of England is the fact that Michael Carrick was not a regular for England. It just shows how stupid some England managers were.
How much are you saying for Carrick?
I think if we're being honest about that type of player, how much they go for, and what clubs would be willing to spend on him, I think 110 million.
Fucking hell, that's a lot of that.
Why? But
that's a lot. I love it. I love it.
But you're thinking about it, right? You're going to spend how much on... I know he's the kid who went to Chelsea, is Enzo Fernandez.
Yeah.
I know he's a different type of player.
Yeah, 115.
Yeah. Mudryk, 80 million.
Yeah.
Who else we got?
You're looking at Caicedo for 80, Declan Rice for 100.
100.
He's in that ballpark. He's better than...
Yeah.
He's done more than all them have.
Exactly.
So far, anyway. All them.
If you sign someone like Michael Carrick and you get 10 years out of him, you're almost saying to yourself, right, during his 10 years, we're going to win some titles. Yeah. You're not necessarily saying that if you sign Declan Rice.
No. Let's move on to a couple of big boys then. I'm not going to do Tevez because United didn't have him. He was on a 2-year loan, wasn't he? So it's not we couldn't really sell him in the same way. But the last two players I want to do, Cristiano Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney. So let's start with Ronaldo. Obviously, we did sell him. So
80 million quid, wasn't
it? So let's say it's the 08-09 season now. They're both 23.
Yeah.
They just won the Champions League.
Yeah.
They've won three Premier Leagues. I think Rooney's won 4 Premier Leagues, something like that.
No.
Ronaldo left with 3, didn't he?
He left with Rooney would have won 3 by 09.
Okay. Ronaldo left for 80 million then. He'd won the Ballon d'Or the season before. I think he got 30 goals in all competitions again the season after. It's 2009. Ronaldo's going to Real Madrid now. How much do you think we get for him?
I think it breaks the record.
Yeah.
It does. A Ballon d'Or winner at 23 who's dropped 72 goals in 2 seasons. Yeah. Or 70, whatever.
Off the wing.
Off the wing. Whatever the biggest ever transfer fee is, add 10 million onto that.
Yeah, I think you're looking at 250 million euros.
Yeah, I think he's the one who go, right, because you're looking at a player, no one knew he was going to be that good until he's 37 or whatever, but you're looking at a player you're probably going to get 10 years out of.
Yeah.
So I think guarantees your goals, guarantees your trophies, and he's one of the best players on the planet, if not the best player on the planet. Yeah. So you're talking a quarter of a bill. Like,
it's got to be.
It's going to be.
He is as we know now. Obviously, like looking back, but like you said, he's won a Ballon d'Or in England, which I know that some of this is a bit English Premier League's better, but like I think it is hard to win the Ballon d'Or in England.
It's absolutely baffling. I know Steele goes on about
so few people won it in England,
but it is baffling that Michael Owen did it.
Yeah, I know.
Like. On a season, I think he got 19 goals or whatever in all competitions as a striker.
I think he was helped massively by the fact that he was so young.
Yeah.
That there was so much
just
hype.
Weird, isn't it? Because you think we've had so many players in this country who've had a better season than he had that season. I know it's relative because it's like, who else are they up against?
Yeah.
But I could name you 7, well, I could probably name you 15 United players that had a better season in 99 than Michael Owen had in 2001 or whenever it was.
So we're saying 250-ish euros?
I think whatever the biggest transfer record is.
Yeah, it's a world record.
Yeah.
Wayne Rooney, 23 years old, just like one of the most watchable players in the world, one of the most consistent players in the world. Yeah. He will get, like at his best, he will get you 25 goals, 15 assists, season in, season out, works harder than everyone else, is more naturally talented than anyone else, and is just so fucking great to watch. Yeah. We already paid 30 million quid for him when he was he just turned 17?
I think he was just turned 18.
Just turned 18.
I think so. Forgive me if I'm getting that wrong.
It's not. I don't think it's Ronaldo numbers because I think there's a few things that play into the Ronaldo factor that would make him more expensive. The Ballon d'Or, obviously, just the outright sheer number of goals. The Portuguese thing, I think, is a big thing as well, where English players playing abroad has a bit of a strange kind of hurdle to people, I think, mentally. I know obviously we're seeing that broken now, but especially back then, I don't think people see it in the same way, do they? People think that English players are always going to want to come back to England and all that.
I think if an English club come in for Rooney, peak Rooney, or 23 years old Rooney.
I think you're looking at 180 to 200.
I think whatever the budget is. And I think if Chelsea had a £300 million budget, I think they'd spend it on Wayne Rooney. Honestly, if they had that money, I think they would, if they could get around it. Because he's that good.
He was so good.
I think obviously the Ronaldo thing is you think he's going to break the record and you go to Real Madrid or wherever you go in the continent, you want to go there and someone would snap him up. But I think if City or Chelsea or whoever, probably those two, or even Newcastle if they got around FFP, whatever their budget was for the summer, if United said, well, that's what it's going to cost to get him, they'd pay it because he's so good. Yeah. And like you say, the thing with Rooney is I think he's... In many ways, his stars sort of shone brighter around that time because, not in all ways, because Ronaldo was the superstar, but Rooney was the one who got loads of assists, who did a graft, who trapped back and put tackles in, who you could sort of say, right, this kid's got everything. Yeah. Like, Ronnie had everything, but he wasn't a tackler. No. He wasn't someone who put loads of graft in, sort of tracking back and winning the ball and running with it for 80 yards. Whereas, and Ronnie as well, he wasn't renowned for his long-range passing. Rooney had that in his locker. Yeah. Rooney had that in his locker when he was 18. Yeah. So I just feel like people will go, whatever my budget is, if that's what it takes to get Wayne Rooney, we'd pay it. So he's probably less than Ronaldo, but
I think someone like 180 million-ish.
Yeah, I think if someone like Chelsea, like I said, if United had said to Chelsea now, if we had him now going, right, it's going to cost you 280 million to get him, and they had the money, they'd pay it. It's just, and the thing is with this, you don't know where it's going to go because you look at the Saudi clubs now who are spending massive amounts of money on players.
Yeah.
You look at some of the owners we've got in this country as well. I know FFP is obviously a thing, but you just don't know where it's going to go. No. You just don't. It could go even higher.
I've got a few others, and I want to bring in a few from the 99 team.
Go on.
I think there's 4 in particular I want to look at.
Yeah.
First of all, let's start as we mean to go on.
Go on.
David Beckham. I think it has to be more than Grealish.
Oh yeah.
Because if you compare him as like a player of a similar-ish style that has sold in the last few years, like they're not the same player. I know people compare them because they've got hair, but like they're both sort of like that's it, isn't it? Why does Jack Grealish go compared to David Beckham? Because they're both quite good looking and they've got hair.
Both wear an Alice band at one point in the careers.
But I think it's the most similar big transfer comparison we could. He's English. He's a winger that isn't a huge goal scorer, but he's obviously very good. Beckham's far better than Jack Grealish. Fucking miles better than him.
Beckham's numbers are just far better than Jack Grealish's. Beckham's numbers are phenomenal. I think he's only just been caught for Premier League free kicks, hasn't he, by James Ward-Prowse, and it took James Ward-Prowse an extra 6 years to get there. So, for me, Beckham, and also the thing that Beckham had was he was the biggest star in the world in terms of football.
Yeah.
He was on the front pages of a newspaper for wearing a sarong.
Yeah.
He took advertising to a new level. It was like Brill Cream and everything else that he was advertising. Obviously had the pop star wife. So if you're looking at it from a marketing point of view, he ticks all the boxes. From a footballing point of view, he ticks all the boxes. Also, and I will always say this, David Beckham as a footballer is underrated.
Yeah.
People think he was just a spice boy. David Beckham put in an absolute shift every single game, was mint on the ball, could tackle, pick a pass like no other player I've ever seen. Yeah. And also, his goal scoring record wasn't amazing, but he scored goals.
And the other thing with Beckham
important goals.
I was going to say, he scored important goals. He scored the other goal against Arsenal in the FA Cup
the other goal against Spurs to win the league.
The other goal against Spurs to win the league. He put both crosses in for the goals against Bayern Munich. He scored so many goals, and that season as well, the comeback after the World Cup. Like scoring free kicks that season. Didn't he score a free kick in the first game of the season?
Against Leicester. To draw the game. We were going to lose. It's 90th minute. And he scored a free kick in the 90th minute to equalise at 2-2.
And that was... United lost 3 games that season. Yeah. So that changes things. If you lose your first game, who knows what the end of the season like? Like, he got assists in big games.
Bro,
he got goals
the
in
Inter Milan game? Dwight York, them 2 headers. Like, I honestly think me and you have had a shout at scoring those goals. Yeah. Because it was just pinpoint accurate crosses. Just stick your head on this anywhere and it'll go in.
I think, so you factor in the fame, you factor in how marketable he is, just visually, just what he is. Like, you factor in the fact that this isn't the Beckham that fell out with Fergie that is now cheaper because he's for sale. This is 1999. We've just finished. We've just won the treble, David Beckham. I think it's 110, 115, isn't it? If Grealish is 100...
What's the most expensive midfielder you've got on your list?
But I think it's Bellingham. No, it's Enzo Fernandez, 121 million euros.
What is Bellingham, by the way? What did he
Bellingham
go for?
is £100 million, so I think that they've got it down here. Sorry, 103 million euro.
Yeah, I think you add another 20 million onto whatever the top one is because of the marketability, because of the consistency as well. Beckham barely ever had a bad game, you know.
I know.
He really didn't. And also, in that 99 final, United, a few players, I'm not going to start digging them out, but wasn't a great performance on the whole by the United team. He was very good. Yeah. Beckham played very well in that entire game when some players didn't quite turn up the way they had done for the majority of the season. And to be fair, Bayern Munich sort of got the tactic spawn until those last 2 minutes, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 2 more I want to do, and there's loads we could do from that team, obviously. Giggs and Scholes, and actually, let's do Scholes. Scholes, I think he always felt like, to me...
When 99? In 99?
Yeah.
Again, I think you're looking at whatever the top end, 110, 120.
Yeah.
I think you are. Because there's a bit of a limit with midfield, isn't there?
Yeah.
You're going to get more for a striker.
You're not going to get 200 million from a midfielder.
No.
Unless it's Zidane or whatever.
Yeah, I think with Scholes, you know... Because I think you could have broke the record with Scholes.
Yeah.
Was it who's the Inter chairman? Was it Maratti? What was his name?
Then?
Yeah. Was it Maratti? I might be just making a name.
Massimo Maratti.
Yeah, Maratti. I think he wanted Scholes.
Yeah.
And he said, how do we get it? And Scholes says, you won't buy me, you have to buy Manchester United Football Club. He was not leaving.
There's 2 I want to do. The first one is Roy Keane.
Right.
You're looking similar money.
Well, what is the British transfer record now?
It's Jack Grealish, 100 million, isn't it?
Roy Keane was the British transfer record when we bought him, 3.75 million, which tells you how much football's come in 30 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he'd go for more than that probably.
Yeah.
He'd probably be 105, 110 million. Because, again, he was quite young. I know Forest had been relegated, but he'd been an absolute shining star for him. And that's when we bought him, so 99.
Sorry, I think the British transfer record is Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea, 106 million quid.
Right, well, if Enzo Fernandez, who's had 17 good games for Benfica, was it?
Yeah.
Compared to Roy Keane, who in 99 had basically had one of the greatest performances in the history of association football in the Stade d'Alpe, had also won, I think, by that time, about 6 titles as well, and become the captain and just an absolute marvel. Then, 110, 120 million. You just pay him whatever the top whack is and a bit more.
The last one I want to do, and we've gone sort of purposely through some of the obviously big money, big name transfers here. Here's what someone I want to bring in that I think United's current position, and when you look at the Højlund sort of numbers that they're looking at, I mean, they're not going to get 100 million euros. I think they know that, but that's what they're asking for. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who averaged a goal or assist every 109 minutes for Man United.
Right, okay.
Which a lot of those are off the bench, so that kind of skews things because you're playing fresh when they're tired and you play less minutes. But even so, they are the numbers. In 1999, let me just double check how old he was. Just so we know exactly. So in 1999, so he's 50 now, take 23 off that, he was 27.
Right.
So let's say 26-year-old at the start of the season, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he's 70 million, 80 million. Because goal scorers are so hard to find.
I think he's more.
Do you really?
How much was Lukaku to Inter?
100 million.
Oh, to Chelsea, sorry.
Yeah, 100 million, yeah. That's
at a similar age when he went to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Because I know they had him, but then they buy him off. But it was off Inter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he'd had a good season in Italy and obviously done bits in the Premier League as well, but hadn't really shone at United.
Yeah.
I think someone like Ole, because goal scorers are so expensive,
and there's so
and a
few in this
proven
era
Premier
as well.
League goal scorer, which Ole is. And let's not forget, he was only on the bench because York and Cole were absolutely smashing it as a partnership. It wasn't like he wasn't good. No. He was good before Dwight York arrived. Yeah. So I think he's like 100 million. Yeah. Because he's if you know right, if you bought Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and he's your main striker, if his record is getting you a goal and assist every 109 minutes, you're gonna get probably
25 to 30
25 goal involvements from him in the Premier League season.
In the Premier League, yeah.
Yeah. That is worth 100 million to you. It just is. And if you only get, he's 27, you only get 4 seasons out of him, that's 100 goals. Yeah. So that's the difference between you playing Champions League football or not getting relegated or whatever it is you're aiming to do. Yeah. That makes that difference.
Like, and this isn't meant to be a dig at all, because I think he's actually a really good player and I'd have him at United. But Alexander Isak, he cost 63 million to Newcastle.
Let's be realistic.
And, you know, he's done well, he's been injured, but he's not done the amount of goal scoring or had the same amount of effect in that team as Solskjaer had at United, largely coming off the bench. Like, Solskjaer would cost more. He scores more goals. Do you know what I mean? Like, he definitely would. So I just think if he's like, that, Solskjaer's 90.
There's players that you're taking a punt on after one good season. You mentioned Núñez. I know Núñez is a lot younger than Ole was then. But again, he's had one good season and you're willing to pay 100 million euros or whatever it is for him. Yeah. And if you watch him, if you do the eye test with Núñez, I know he scored those goals against us, so before you all start. But you don't look at him and go, oh, he's perfect. Like, you look at it, sometimes his touch can look a bit clumsy or whatever. Ole looked great. Yeah. He looked great on the ball. His finishing, left foot, right foot, heading, was second to none. And he was literally one of those first touch, if he needed a first touch, if he didn't hit it first time, was control it, and he always brought it under control, and then he'd get his shot off. So you think that there's a player that is worth forking out the money for. So, yeah, I do. I think that for someone like Ole, a goal scorer, and someone also who gets an assist, and just little things like plays a lot of games, very rarely sort of had any big injuries. Yeah.
Later in his career.
But this time,
no.
I mean, he's just a player that I think, I love it. I love United to have an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer right now.
I'd be so happy with that. We have 4 of them then.
I know, unreal.
Vito says the problem with all that, United still couldn't sell any of them for more than 15 million. That's the issue. I was talking before on we've got a members video coming out. Make sure you check out the members section. Join, you get extra content, you get access to the members only chat, loads of different things. But I was talking about United's approach for Mason Mount and how we're sort of giving ourselves a bit of a pat on the back for pulling out and not offering ridiculous money.
Yeah.
Which I think is nice.
Yeah, it's admirable.
It's certainly better than spending 90 million quid on someone who's worth 50 million quid.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be nice for once if instead of the options being United get fucked over or we don't get the player we want, they're the two options, aren't they? We either get fucked on price or we just don't get our player.
Yeah.
What about we actually buy them, but for a fee that we all think is good? Like, if you were really good at negotiating, we would have got the deal done for 50 million.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's slightly better than buying him for too much. But all that's happened now is the manager hasn't got a player he wants. And we get to save a bit of face by saving 5 million quid, which is good, but only if that money then gets spent wisely somewhere else. Because if we go, right, we're not paying Mason Mount 60 million quid, we're not doing it. Let's pay 80 for Caicedo instead. That doesn't stack up to me either.
No.
Like, how come we ain't got 55 here, but we have got 80 there? Like, I get that we need players in multiple positions, but I just think
the length of contract Caicedo's on compared to Mount, I think weight plays into it.
I'm not saying he's not worth more. I'm saying if United haven't got the money, spending more on someone slightly better.
I think as well, when you do like the three bids,
we've either got the money we haven't, surely.
When you're saying to people like this is our third bid, then they've probably got a fourth in them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're going, right, we're bidding this, no. We're bidding this, no. We're bidding this, no. We're not bidding again.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Do you know?
So I'm not. I get it. I get your point. I kind of agree with you. But I do, and I think the club has been shambolic when it comes to transfers. Just even before Fergie left, some of the transfer decisions we made when we didn't buy players we could have got were baffling to me.
Yeah.
But post Fergie, we've been absolutely terrible. But I do feel like, and I've said this on social media as well, like there's a fee where you look at the Mount deal and you go, that makes sense. That is a good deal to have.
Yeah.
Anything over 55, and I think that there's a limit. There's a point where you go, no.
Well, I agree.
And that is the point for me.
But I agree with you that he's not worth more than that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should have spent more.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is...
you're saying negotiation-wise.
If we were really good at negotiating, people who are really good get bargains.
Yeah.
Not, we didn't... Oh, right, I'm going to go out today. I need a new watch. My watch is broken. I'm not going to spend more than 10 grand, but I need to come back with a watch because I need to be able to tell the time. You go out and you come back and you go, you know what, I've smashed it. I didn't buy a watch because they were all too expensive.
I don't even think necessarily... You're right about negotiation playing a part. I think it's more relationships as well.
Yeah.
If you have relationships with these clubs, if you have a director of football or someone who knows who his opposite number is, and can get on the phone and go, look, cards on the table, we ain't going over 55. I'm not kidding you, we ain't, we walk away.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Are you having it or not? And it's like... You've got another relationship with this guy or the woman who's on the other end of the phone, and you can say, all right, let's make a deal work. Yeah. And it happens. But I don't think United tend to do that anymore. I don't think we have any sort of connections or anything. No. It just seems like we always seem to, whenever we've got a player, we've paid more than probably we should have done. Now we look at players like Bruno was a bargain. We paid what? Most people looked at that at the time and thought, that's maybe even a little bit excessive for him.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people looked at what he'd done in Serie A and gone, well, he flopped there a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he's gone back to Portugal. So there's a question mark there. Lisandro Martinez had done well at Ajax, but no one was saying, what a bargain at 56 million for a kid who's, obviously he is now. But at the time, I don't think anyone was saying that. No. The only sort of bargain you could say we've got, arguably Malacia, because he's 40 million euros, which today doesn't get you anything. Obviously, Ericsson on a free. But even, it annoys when people go back to Dan James one. It turned out to be a bargain because we sold him for profit. We sold him 25 million. But at the time, this is a kid that was going to go to Leeds for 4 million quid. And we paid 12 million for him 4 months later or 6 months later. And in those 6 months, he didn't set the world alight. No. He did a little bit, but not much. And yet his transfer fee tripled because United came in for him. So whilst it's like, oh, well, that was a bargain because it turned out like, at the time it wasn't. So I don't think there's one where, post-Fergie, where many I can think of, and you can probably correct me, where I go, what a snip. What's an absolute bargain at the time. I don't mean in retrospect.
I wouldn't say it was an absolute bargain, but But I think getting in Varane, one of the most well-respected, highly regarded centre-backs in the world, and I think he was 28 for 40 million, was good value.
Yeah.
I know, I don't think you wouldn't go, fucking, I've done that. But it was like, that's quite good. Like, you know, when you're talking 75 for Van Dijk, etc.
I get it.
Even that's
but
not
I think
like
even then he was contract was on its way out when he had a year left. He was obviously, they were willing to let him go.
So that's what I'm saying. I agree with you.
Injury question marks around him, obviously. But I understand. I completely agree with what you're saying. I just think that when you look at, I can't remember sitting here or wherever, when United have bought someone post-Fergie, and I'm not going to count people like Zlatan on a free or whatever, that's different. And, you know, like I said, with Ericsson on a free. Well, we've paid money for someone and you go, we've had their pants down. Yeah. That's a bargain, that, you know. No. That is decent. Like, even the players where you go, that looks like a good signing. Like Mkhitaryan or whoever, like, you know, when he looks at it at the time, you think someone like, I don't know, even like you might say Lindelof or someone, you go, oh, that's a good, he's a good player, and like that's not over the top. But I don't think we've ever gone. I can't remember going, yes, we've absolutely smashed it. And even like someone like Malacia, I didn't know much about him, so I wasn't going, oh, great deal there. It just looked like worth taking a punt on, and I think it has been worth it in the cold light of day. But there's no one where you go, wow, that was a great bit of business. Because
great bit of negotiating from Man United.
The Scousers can go, Andy Robertson. He was what was he, 8 million or 10 million or something, something like that. They've got one or two others that they've made. Even City, the kid Alvarez, it was 14 million. Yeah. I know it's easier when you're coming into a very successful team, but he was a bit of a snip. Arsenal, they've had a few, haven't they, where they've gone quite early on youngsters and got it right for them anyway. Yeah. So there's a few there where you go, yeah, that's a good deal. But United, and maybe it is the United tax that affects it, but I think a lot of it is just not having anyone who's at the club, who knows how to get deals over the line, who's got connections, who can get on the phone and speak to someone he knows.
We don't seem like we don't seem like we've got mates around Europe, do we?
Was it like, I think, and you can argue that maybe it worked out for the best, but like I think all he wanted us to buy, when he was at Mulder, said you can have this kid Haaland for 4 million. Yeah. That didn't happen because, and I think what he said it was someone who's still at the club who was involved now. We can speculate who that can be. But that didn't happen. I think Gary Neville said we could have had Cancelo for cheap when he was at Valencia, I think. Forgive me if I'm getting that one wrong. There was another one that springs to mind that I've forgotten. Well, I think Evra, said he got contacted or he knew about a player that we could have got who was cheap and who was worth it, but he couldn't. Or someone, got in touch with Evra and said, I'm trying to get hold of Manchester United about this player. I can't remember who the player was, but it didn't happen because there was no one there. You need someone who's involved in the sort of the backroom deals and I know this guy and I know someone there. I can get us. Who's that kid we're looking at? Yeah, I'll get on the phone to my opposite number at Brighton and I can get us Caicedo for 60 million rather than 80. Or I can get hold of, you know, my guy at Newcastle and I can get us.
Promise them a bit of this down the line.
You know,
or whatever,
they want McTominay. I can make this deal happen where everyone's happy. There doesn't seem to be any of that. It seems to be we sell players very cheaply and we buy players for probably more than the worth.
And there was a rumour, wasn't there, a couple of years ago, or maybe even in the last year, that I can't remember the name of the guy, and it's probably better that I can't because it was a bit of a rumour, but that we sent a scout out to look around Europe for a new goalkeeper, and they came back after 12 months and said there's no one better than De Gea.
What's that? Like the ones the scouts that went to wherever Pereira was on loan, and said the best player on the pitch is Andreas Pereira. Yeah. He's a United player. I mean, it might have been true, but it doesn't look very good, does it? No. When we're sending scouts to look at players we've loaned out to the club. Yeah. Is he any good at Pereira? I've heard of him.
We should give him a go.
We should sign him. Knowing us, we'd have probably bought him.
We've got a few super chats. Have you seen that on Filthy Fellas where he's talking about...
The Nigerian, where he loaned the players as soon as the club and the club sold him. I love that.
I could genuinely see United doing that, but we buy back a player that we've loaned out. That Andreas Pereira's pretty good. We'll give you 15 million for him. And they go, but you... And then someone goes, no. Yeah, we'll take it. 15, did you say? Yeah. 20 million is yours. And United go, fuck it, we'll give you 20 for him. Yeah. And we buy him back and have him on the pitch with the scarf. You're like, we loaned him out to them.
What?
Shit and a half.
Go on. Before we do Wally of the Week then, go on, have you got some chats for us?
Yeah, SK says 100% player prices in the Prem are above and beyond inflation. A combo of agent and player power. Can we have a third party evaluate? Yeah, you need, like, do you know when you're trying to buy a house and the lenders send someone around to value the house to make sure you're not getting done over? Yeah. We need something like that in the Premier League where someone from, purple bricks, comes round and goes, Mason Mount ain't worth 60 million. We've done the surveys. There's a bit of subsidence on that left leg. The guy's fucked. Abhinav Verma says Beckham still holds the free kick record in the Premier League.
Right, sorry.
And he ain't losing it anytime soon with James Ward Championship kicking about, is it?
Fair enough. Sorry, my bad.
SK says Beckham would be close to Ronaldo in terms of their valuation. Think about how big his brand was and scale it up to today.
Yep.
Happy says, great to see you lads. Much love. Thank you. Much love to you as well. And then Vito, we read out a little bit before as well. Who's your Wally of the week, Jay?
Do you know what? I've not even thought about this, so I'm a bit sort of snookered. Do you know what? I know who it's going to be, right? It's all these absolute muppets who took to social media and tried to make out like anyone at Glastonbury was someone who queued up for a food bank. Yeah. So it's like, how can you say there's people using food? Oh no, all these people at Glastonbury will be moaning on Monday that they've got to go to the food bank. And there's a cost of living crisis, yet people can afford 300 quid for Glastonbury. For starters, people can spend whatever they want on the money, people can spend their money on whatever they want. Yeah. And even if you're a bit skint, but you can get the money together to go away or do something nice for yourself, you should be entitled to do that. Yeah. Life shouldn't be rubbish all of the time. Secondly, most of the people at Glastonbury have probably got a bit of dough. They're probably sort of middle class. A lot of them are. Of it's not like you people who've got the gyro and gone and bought a Glastonbury ticket with it. Let's just put it in perspective and stop using people enjoying themselves and spending money as a stick to beat the left wing or the lower classes with. Yeah. It's pathetic.
I love it when people do that, when you see it all the time where it's like, someone on benefits has got Sky, someone on benefits has gone on holiday, someone on benefits has got some new trainers. Like, if you're on working tax credits, or if you're on benefits, your life is supposed to be absolutely miserable every single day. Otherwise, you're taking the piss. Like, people are entitled to enjoy life. Yeah. It shouldn't just be hell or we don't give you any money.
This is the thing, bro. Like, me and you always joke about how much I pay on my Sky bill, but I want all those channels. I watch all those channels. Yeah. Like, I enjoy watching daft films and all the sport and documentaries and all the other stuff, and I like all that. And it's, you know what I mean, when I'm at home and I'm not doing stuff with the kids or the family, I like to chill and watch stuff. Yeah. It's something that I'm willing to pay for because it makes my life better for me. Yeah. I don't think you should be like in a position where if you can get the money together to get something that makes you feel good, you shouldn't have to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's like we just want to demonise anyone who spends any money unless it's the upper classes.
Unless you're buying gruel and like a roof for your children's head, then you shouldn't be allowed to enjoy. If you want to start firing, you're allowed to spend your benefits on.
If you want to start firing shots at people wasting money, why don't you take a look at the government that wasted all that money on PPE that was no good to anyone? Yeah. Go on, bro.
I don't know. Mine's the same every week, and it can't be. I think I need to get rid of Twitter. I've come to that realisation because every week I just everyone's slagging off Glastonbury the whole time. Like, I know yours is a slightly different point, but like people going, oh, Arctic Monkeys was shit. Oh, Guns N' Roses was shit. Oh, Elton John was shit. Like, everything anyone says on Twitter is how shit everything is.
That annoyed me as well because it was like people were slagging off all these people. Like Elton John, right? He's 76 years old. He's done enough sniff to literally give the Bolivian army some marching. That's how much snizzle that man has done. Yeah. And he's on stage for 2 hours at the age of 76. Going through some of the biggest hits in the history of music. Yeah. And people going, nah, he's not up to it, is he? No. Excuse me, it's a miracle he's still alive. Yeah. Like Axl Rose, God knows what he's done to himself. He's 60 odd. Yeah. And people going, oh, listen to his sound. Also, who's the kid from the Arctic Monkeys? I didn't watch that one. I watched the other two. Like, people moaning about his accent. Like, so where's he from originally?
Sheffield.
Is he? I'm guessing, I might be wrong, I'm guessing he's not lived in Sheffield since he's about 16.
Yeah, pretty much.
Probably as soon as he's made any money, he started globe-trotting. And I don't really care whether his accent's changed or not. I mean, it happens to anyone. So, yeah, it just seems silly things to have a go at people for. Yeah. Like, I can't believe that 76-year-old who's barely stringing a sentence together. What were you on about? And that 76-year-old who's entertaining 250,000 people live for 2 hours.
Most 76-year-olds I've met can't even entertain their living room, let alone a fucking
worldwide audience
and endless sea of people. Like, can you imagine?
We were all buzzing as well. Yeah. Everyone was there, and my cousin's at Glastonbury. Yeah. Like, he wasn't in the group chat going, this is a shambles, Elton John's pathetic. It was like, you're watching And how often do you go to a gig as well where you haven't specifically chosen that guy to see or that woman to see, and you know every single word of every single song they sing, which everyone does really. Elton John, it's one of them, innit? So honestly, man, it's just it's just ridiculous. It's just hating on people just for enjoying themselves. And I'm not a big fan of Glastonbury. I've never even been, but it annoys me how critical people are. So I'm with you on that one, brother. Nice. Joseph, where can people find you?
Still on Twitter, I guess. Yeah, just knocking it out. Joe Smith 93 on Twitter. Yeah.
Go and check him out. Make sure you check out the Sloppy Joe's podcast as well. A very, very good podcast. Very, very funny indeed. You're back this week, aren't you? Yeah. Your brethren's back.
Yeah.
Sorry,
the episode's going to be Wednesday though instead of Tuesday because Joe McGraw's been away for a week. So it's going out a day later, but we will have an episode this week, brand new.
Right. You know where to find me? I'll be back with Scotty and Motty later on, actually, at 7 o'clock. But make sure you are subscribing to this channel. We got to 700,000 subscribers, thanks to you wonderful people. Next stop, 800k, and we'll get there within a week.
Certainly.
Yeah, why not? That's been Joe. I've been Jay. This has been the Paddock Podcast. Big thank you to Beer 52, of course, who you advertised for us earlier.
Absolutely.
In your perfect way that you often do.
In all of my resplendency.
Resplendency,
Sure
that's the word.
The link is in the description for Beer 52.
Yeah, big thanks to them, and thanks for watching.